In Farmer Boy, we have heard how Almanzo's family grew their own food, raised their own sheep for wool, harvested their own sugar, and built their own tools. But sometimes Almanzo's parents traded other people for things they could not grow or make themselves. They traded the tin peddler their rags for his milk pails and baking pans. They traded French Joe and Lazy John salt pork for their help on the farm. Sometimes Almanzo's family traded their potatoes, horses, and butter for money. With money, they could trade for all kinds of things that required special skills to create, such as new boots or a piglet from the pig farmer. Have you ever wondered how money came to be? A long, long time ago, most people lived like Almanzo's family. They either hunted and gathered or grew their own food. They built their own homes and made their own clothes. But as times changed, some people began to take great care in the things they made and dedicated their days to making that one thing. For example, it might take a person several months to build a carriage. If a farmer tried to build his own carriage, he wouldn't have time for all the tasks that needed doing on a farm. People began to trade or barter for things they did not have the time or skill to make themselves. At first, it might have been something like salt pork for a day's work. But salt pork can go bad, and maybe some jobs feel like they are worth more than just some salt pork. The barter or trading system only works if one item has the same value as another and lasts a long time, and if the two people both agree on the value of those two things. Let me tell you a story to show you what I mean. Once, out in the countryside, there were two families that each had their own farm. One family grew a large crop of wheat each year. The other family raised rabbits for their fur and meat. The two families, wanting to be sure they had a variety of foods in their diet, began trading their wheat and rabbits with each other. They agreed that one bag of wheat was worth one rabbit. In time, many more families moved to the area. One family caught fish in the river, one family made clothes, another raised cows, and another made shoes. Over time, there were many goods and services available. One day, a shoemaker sent his daughter, Emma, to trade a pair of shoes for a bag of wheat. The wheat farmer needed new shoes, so he agreed to the trade. The next day, the shoemaker sent Emma back to the wheat farmer to trade another pair of shoes for another bag of wheat. The wheat farmer told her, "I don't need another pair of shoes, but I will give you some wheat for a basket of apples." So Emma went to the apple farmer. The apple farmer said, "I never wear shoes in the summer. I won't need them for months, but I do need horseshoes for my horse." So Emma went to the blacksmith's shop. The blacksmith didn't need shoes either, but he was in need of some new pants. To the blacksmith, When Emma asked the seamstress if she would trade a pair of pants for the shoes, she agreed. Emma gave her the boots and took the pants to the blacksmith, who gave her the horseshoes, which she took to the apple farmer, who gave her some apples to give to the wheat farmer. Finally, Emma had her bag of wheat. Eventually, this neighborhood of farmers and tradesmen grew so large that it became a village, and it was called Farmsburg. Stories like Emma's became common. People might spend a week trying to trade with their neighbors, and that wasted time. They could be producing more clothes, grinding more wheat, or hoeing more fields. They decided to agree on a system of currency. Currency is anything that can represent value and be traded for anything. It doesn't even need to have value all on its own. The people of Farmsburg lived near a beach where shells washed up. they began trading shells for wheat, shoes, or whatever they needed from their neighbors. Unfortunately, Tom, the son of the village baker, did not love to work all day, and found that if he instead spent his days by the shore collecting shells, he could be a rich man, trading for everything his heart desired. When the people of Farmsburg realized how Tom spent his days, they grew angry and decided that they needed to find a type of currency that was more difficult for a lazy man to get his hands on. Many miles off, there was a mine where people dug gold nuggets out of the ground. The people of Farmsburg pooled their resources together and traded the miners a great deal of wheat, animals, and fabric for a large supply of gold. This gold became their currency. Larger pieces of gold were worth more than smaller pieces. Although this system seemed to feel more fair than the seashells, it still had its problems. Sometimes a person might need to buy something small, like a tin cup. Even a small piece of gold felt like it had more value than that tin cup, and there was no way to make the gold nugget any smaller to pay for an item of less value. Some people, drawn to wealth, began to collect gold, hoarding it in their homes, and creating a situation where some people had very little gold and others had great quantities. The people put their brightest thinkers together to come up with a solution. The villagers realized that gold could be melted down and then poured out into small chips. Chips of different sizes could have different values. This made the people very pleased until someone began melting down gold with tin, creating coins that looked the same but did not have the same value as pure gold. The villagers finally decided to go to the king of the land and ask for help with their problem. The king of the land was not surprised in the least when the villagers of Farmsburg brought their money problems before him. Indeed, representatives from many villages had been complaining of the same problem for years now. The king decided that the only solution was for the king to create standardized coins, chips of different metals that would have a different value depending on the size, weight, and type of metal it was from. The gold chips had the greatest value, while the copper ones were worth very little. Each coin was stamped with the seal of the king, so that fake money could not be produced by people wishing to cheat their neighbors. Although the stamped coins of the king solved the problem of many villages, the large city surrounding the king's castle had other problems. This city was a place where traders came from far and wide with special items like salt and silk that could not be purchased anywhere else. Merchants bought large quantities of these specialty items so that they in turn could sell them to the people of the surrounding lands. One of these merchants, a man named Horace, visited the king one day. "I need to buy a great deal of silk from the trader from the east. The gold it will take to pay for so much silk would fill 2 wagons. My horses cannot pull such a load." Horace went on to tell the king that the trader from the east was afraid to carry all of those coins such a far distance for fear of being robbed. The trader told Horace about a new form of money being used in his country. They had begun making money out of paper, which was easy to carry and could have as high a value as one could imagine, making it possible for Horace, if he had paper money, to pay the trader with only a few pieces of paper that would represent those wagons full of gold. The king was inspired and went about having his own paper money printed. From that day to this, people around the world have used a combination of coin and paper money for all their trading needs. To make things even easier, now we can buy things with checks, which are pieces of paper worth whatever amount you write on them, credit cards, which allow us to buy things and then pay for them later, and even something called bitcoins, which only exist and have value on the World Wide Web of the internet. Money has been evolving for thousands of years in order to meet the needs of the people who use it. Who knows what forms of money you will see someday?